Oh, hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Terrific.
This time.
Terrific.
All right. 15 seconds.
That's the way it works anymore.
They're trying. That's what it seems like.
Oh, well.
Well, it's 7 p.m. in Gardner, Kansas. I'm going to call the Gardner City Council meeting to order. Will you please rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up, doing a post-issuance debt compliance education. Our friend Tyler Ellsworth from Kutak Rock is on the line tonight on Zoom. How you doing, sir?
Good evening, Mayor.
All right, and it sounds like you've got a slideshow for us, so please, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for having me this evening, and my special thanks to your city clerk for being kind enough to run my slide deck here. Is the first slide up on the monitors that says post-issuance compliance?
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, we will get started. So the goal of your post-issuance policies, which the city put in place in 2012, and really the goal of this presentation this evening, is to keep everybody out of trouble. It's that simple. Post-issuance is not an exciting topic. It's though a broad and very complex topic. And what I've tried to do this evening with this relatively brief presentation is to keep things high level, to remind the governing body and staff that both governing body members and staff have roles to play under your post-issuance policies, and to give you just a couple takeaways to focus on to keep in mind both when you're going through the process of issuing debt, but also after the financing is closed, really whenever you're thinking about how bond proceeds are used or how finance facilities are used, really anytime sort of what the city is looking at its day-to-day business of the city. So with that, could I have the next slide, please? This is the one that has at the top post-issuance compliance overview. The post-issuance compliance policies really address the time period after financing is closed. So after you've sold bonds, after you've sold temp notes or entered a lease purchase, the financing is closed and the city obtains the proceeds and it spends those proceeds on the project and then goes on to use the project after it's constructed. And the policies have two main areas of focus. One area of focus is to maintain the tax exemption on the bonds or the notes or the lease rental payments. And the other aspect of focus is to comply with federal securities laws, particularly disclosure. And as I mentioned, there are roles both for the governing body members and also city staff. So if I can have the next slide, please. This next slide has takeaways. And so the takeaways for the governing body, really there's a single takeaway this evening that I'd like to leave you with, and that I'll touch on here. I'll explain in some detail, and then I'll recap at the end of the presentation. The takeaway for the governing body is to use exercise caution in speaking to the market. So we'll talk about what that means. We'll get to that in just a few slides. The takeaways for staff are twofold. One is with respect to securities law, to keep in mind the two new continuing disclosure reporting events that were put in place in early 2019, and I'll cover what those two are, but staff has already well familiarized himself with what these two items are. We've already had discussions on this. The other aspect to keep in mind for staff is on the area of tax exemption to keep an eye on the use of bond proceeds and keep an eye on how finance facilities are used. If I could have the next slide, please. The slide on maintaining the tax exemption. This is really something that staff focuses on. This is not really a governing body concern, but anytime the city issues debt on a tax exempt basis, there are three things that we have to keep in mind and that staff does a terrific job of in order to ensure that the interest stays tax exempt and that those obligations don't become taxable. Those three items that staff has to focus on are the use of bond proceeds, making sure that bond proceeds are spent as intended and in a certain period of time. The second area as it relates to tax exemption is limitations on the use of bond finance property. Bond finance property has to be used for a governmental purpose, and there are limitations on the amount of use that can be had by non-governmental entities such as private companies or individuals, and also the revenues that the city might collect from advertising, sponsorships, leases of those facilities. So that's something that we keep an eye on with staff from time to time. The third aspect of maintaining the tax exemption is arbitrage, which is really just a fancy word for making money. The federal government doesn't want to offer you financing that's tax exempt from federal income tax, only to have you park that money in an investment that earns more than you paid to borrow it. Can I get the next slide, please? The next aspect, in addition to the tax exemption, so we talked about how tax exemption is one broad area of your post-issuance policy. The other aspect, the other broad area of focus for your post-issuance policy is complying with securities law. And that really boils down to disclosure and making the necessary disclosures that an investor reasonably expects to receive when they're thinking about buying the city's bonds in order to pay for a public project. So there are three different types of disclosure, and I'll touch on what those are here and then talk about a couple of them in additional detail in a couple slides. So with respect to the first item on this list, primary disclosure, that relates to preparation of the offering document when the city goes into the market to obtain financing for a project. When it sells notes, when it sells bonds, primary disclosure involves gathering the data that the city puts into the preliminary official statement. And frankly, your staff and your financial advisor, Ellers, does a great job of doing the due diligence and putting the disclosure document, the preliminary official statement, together. That's something that's really handled by staff rather than the governing body. Now, I know that when we issue bonds or notes, frequently Ellers will email the governing body a copy of that preliminary official statement prior to the debt sale. And as you receive those emails, I would encourage you to familiarize yourselves with what's in that preliminary official statement when that email comes to you, just so you're aware of how that information is presented, what the project is that's being financed to the extent you don't know already. But staff does a great job of doing the primary disclosure. The second aspect of disclosure is continuing disclosure, and there are securities laws and regulations that govern the kind of information that the city has to provide its investors after it sells debt. So if you sell debt, but it's outstanding for a 10-year term, that debt might get traded in the market to multiple different buyers over that 10-year term. When the city issues debt, it enters agreements to provide continuing disclosure to make updates to the market about what its tax collections are each year, how many people have moved in and out of the city, things like that, in order for people who are buying the debt or who might think about buying the debt while it's outstanding during that 10-year term to think about investing in that security. That's what continuing disclosure is. And then the third aspect, which is where the governing body really potentially has a role, is the area of statements reasonably expected to reach investors and markets, which is known as speaking to the markets. Can I have the next slide, please? So when making disclosures of any kind, whether it's in the primary offering document, whether it's in the course of continuing disclosure, sort of updating information that the city has previously prepared, or whether it's speaking to the market in some fashion, the standard for disclosure is that basically you have to give all the information that a reasonable that a reasonable investor would expect to receive, and you can't omit any information. And so I think it's worth highlighting the language that I put up here in blue, which is from Section 17A of the Securities Act of 1933. And that language is, it shall be unlawful for any person in the offer or sale of any securities to make any untrue statement of a material fact or to omit to state a material fact. So don't lie about anything and don't leave anything out. That's the standard by which you're judged. If I could have the next slide, please. Staff handles the city's continuing disclosure obligations. So on the slide that says continuing disclosure at the top, staff handles preparing and publishing the city's CAFR, preparing a supplement to the CAFR to provide additional financial and operating information to market participants. And we work with staff to get that filed each year on a website that the MSRB runs to make sure that people have access to that information. And the final aspect of continuing disclosure that staff handles is disclosure of certain listed events if they have to occur. The listed events include things like rating changes or things of that nature. It doesn't apply to the city under Kansas law, but if a municipality were to declare bankruptcy or something like that, the city would need to make a disclosure to the securities market to alert potential investors that that kind of event had occurred. There's a whole list of these events under federal securities law that the city and its staff agree to update the market in the event they occur. The two new events that were added to this list in early 2019 had to do with the incurrence of financial obligations, which really means if the city enters leases or even state revolving fund loans or things of that nature, where it's not necessarily a publicly offered sale of debt, but the city nonetheless incurs a financial obligation. The SEC has said that those types of events need to be reported, and we've worked with your staff to talk about being aware of those instances, and we've looked at some particular instances and had conversations about whether or not certain things needed to be reported. The other listed event that's been added, that was added in early 2019, is the city needs to disclose if there's a modification of any of its outstanding debt obligations that relates to financial difficulty. That one really is something that I wouldn't expect to come into play ever, but if it does, then we keep in mind that in addition to addressing whatever the underlying cause of that financial difficulty was, we also have an obligation to report to the market to make sure that we don't run afoul of SEC requirements that modification to that debt obligation had occurred. Could I have the next slide, please? So now that you all are thoroughly glazed over and asleep, this is the part that's important to the governing body. So this is the speaking to the market piece that I want you to keep in mind. Speaking to the market is, whether it's by a governing body member or a member of your staff, the speaking to the market is providing information that's reasonably designed to reach investors. And that could include public statements, publications, info posted on websites or social media, statements even that you make from the dais in the course of a regular council meeting such as this. And what I want you to take away is the city staff and Ellers, in preparing your offering documents for bonds and notes, go to great lengths to make sure that that information is accurate. And I think I would encourage you all as elected officials to be somewhat familiar with those documents. Just as I said previously, be familiar with what's in them, what you're financing, and what the financial picture of the city is. But be cautious when you speak or when you post on social media if you're speaking about the financial condition of the city or speaking about the financial prospects of a particular project. And to just give you an idea, I know that this is an example. This doesn't, I'm not saying that this is something that is a risk to you, but I just want to use by way of example, we had considered in the last year issuing community improvement district revenue bonds for the Price Chopper project and the redevelopment of that Main Street Marketplace shopping center. That project has been put on hold for various reasons right now. Of course, Price Chopper is open, but the redevelopment of the entirety of the center is still in progress. But if the city were to issue CID revenue bonds to finance some of those redevelopment costs, then you as elected officials and staff as well would want to be very careful about the statements you make regarding the financial condition, say, of that shopping center, of the Price Chopper, to make sure that any statements about the finances of that project or of the prospective bond issue, you left to be made in the offering document itself rather than you going out publicizing information about that. So that's the takeaway for the governing body. It does also apply to staff, but I wanted to highlight that in particular. And actually, that's a good place to pause and just see if anyone has any questions so far. No takers. All right, fair enough. Well, we're almost wrapped up here.
You're doing a great job there, Tyler.
Terrific. Thank you, Mayor. If I could have the next slide, please. This is the why it matters. And the reason it matters, and the reason I started off the presentation by saying the goal of this is to keep everyone, elected officials and staff, out of trouble with the IRS and also the Securities and Exchange Commission, is because in the last 10 years, the Securities and Exchange Commission has taken a particular interest in focusing on the municipal market and has really ramped up their efforts to make examples of municipalities and municipal officials, both at the elected level and at the staff level, that the SEC has viewed as not being straightforward when it comes to providing adequate disclosure about financings, whether it's continuing disclosure, that's the subject of your policy and the subject of this presentation, or whether it's preparation of the original offering document when the financing is put in place. You'll see from this slide that over the last several years, the SEC has obtained financial penalties against both municipalities and individual officials and criminal charges as well. So that's the backdrop against which this presentation is made, and that's why it's so important. So having said all that, if I could get the next slide, please. I'll leave you with that note about why it matters, and I'll leave you with the takeaway for the governing body, which is to exercise caution in speaking to the market. And again, the two takeaways for staff are to keep in mind with respect to securities law, the two new continuing disclosure reporting events. And with respect to tax exemption, to keep in mind the limitations on the use of bond proceeds and the limitations on the use of bond finance facilities. Thank you all.
Thank you, Tyler. Any questions for Mr. Ellsworth from our bond counsel, Kutek Rock? All right. Well, thank you again, Tyler. Appreciate it.
Very good. Thanks.
All right. And we'll move on to the public hearing. We're going to be holding a hearing this evening on the consideration of amending the redevelopment project plan for Main Street Marketplace, as Mr. Ellsworth just mentioned in passing. Redevelopment District in City Gardner, Kansas, Main Street Marketplace Project Area 1. So may I have a motion for the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Motion Winters, second Baldwin, that we open a public hearing on the consideration of amending the redevelopment project plan for redevelopment district in the city of Gardner, Kansas, Main Street Marketplace Project Area 1. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? The public hearing is now open. If you wish to come forward and speak on the topic of the public hearing, please limit it to that topic. 5-minute time limit, no profanity, no personal attacks. The podium is open. Seeing no one coming forward, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Motion from Gorsuch, second Melton, that we close the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? The public hearing is now closed. Move on to public comments. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to make comments about city matters or items on the agenda that are not part of a public hearing. As I said before in the previous meeting, if you wish to come forward on a piece of
business is on the agenda, you can wait until the agenda item is considered, or you can come up now during the public comment period. Come forward, again, it's a 5-minute time limit. The clock's over here on my right, your left, and no profanity, no personal attacks. With that being said, the podium is now open for public comments. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there any member of the council wishes to remove an item from the consent agenda? I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Melton, second Winters, that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, any abstentions? Consent agenda passes. There's nothing on the planning and zoning consent agenda or committee recommendations. There is a executive session on the agenda. I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Melton, second Baldwin. We recess into executive session pursuant to KSA 75-4319B1 to discuss personnel matters related to knowledge of personnel regarding a revised agreement with the city administrator beginning at 7:20 p.m. Returning to regular session 7:40 p.m. 20 minutes. Is that consistent? All right.
Good start. Glad
All
you
right.
didn't say 5.
All right, 7:40 p.m. We will be coming back into chambers. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, any abstentions? We are recessed into executive session. I'll entertain a motion to resume regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Melton, second Winters, we resume regular session. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? We are back in regular session. I'll entertain a motion to recess into executive session.
Second.
Motion, Gregorczyk, second Melton, that we recess into executive session pursuant to KSA 75-4319B1 to discuss personal matters related to non-elected personnel regarding a revised agreement with city administrator beginning at 7:41 p.m. and returning to regular session at 8:01 p.m. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, any abstentions? We are recessed into executive session. I'll entertain a motion to resume regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Milton, second Baldwin, that we resume regular session. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, any abstentions? We are back in regular session. All right, new business item number 1. Consider approving and authorizing the mayor to sign a revised agreement with City Administrator Jim Pruding. Since I'm the one presenting this particular item, I'm going to go ahead and go through the basis and background on this. About a month and a half ago, Jim approached me, and we've had a very good working relationship, and the city has had some real progress going forward and doing some reorganizations, as well as some major improvements to some of our internal processes. And so when Jim came to me looking for a revised contract, he wanted to see if we could perhaps remove some of the incentives in exchange for a new four-year contract with a 2-year automatic renewal at the end of it. Basically, it was a like for like wash. We get a little million back on the front end, and he makes a long-term commitment to the city. I think Jim made the statement to me that this is the place he wanted to retire from at some point in the future. Not very near future, but some point in the future. The next 6 years anyway. So sometime next 6 years. So anyway, he gave me a contract. It's in the packet. Does anybody have any questions or comments, or wish to move right forward?
Open for
public comments.
Yes. I'm sorry. I'll open it up for public comments. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on new business item number 1? All right. Seeing no one coming forward, questions or comments for Jim or for the rest of us? Yes.
Yeah, I have a couple of items in support. First, I want to say thank you to Jim for being solvent through this process once it hit the agenda. I appreciated his willingness to visit about the details as well as the genesis of this request. I'm going to support this because we removed the annex bonuses, which I was against vehemently to begin with. There's no merit increase for the first year, I believe, and there's no deferred comp moving forward. So I think that gets us back to a standard city administrator contract. Go ahead.
In terms of what would you define deferred comp for?
Uh,
Talking about retirement? Because retirement, there's still the retirement in there.
That's not the way I understood it. I apologize.
No other provisions of the contract changed.
I apologize, Jim. That's correct.
Yep, I just wanted to make a clarification.
No, I appreciate that. Nonetheless, as to where I was going, I'm going to support this, although I didn't support it about 18 plus months ago. Jim has done a good job, and I expect, while I'm elected, that he will continue to do that and continue to serve those elected after me. So I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks, Wendy. Any other comments or questions?
This is a good contract for the city, and gives us some more stability going forward. So this is a slam dunk.
Yeah, it's also good for Jim because it gives him some certainty as well. So, all right. Well, no other comment. I'll entertain a motion on new business item number 1.
So moved. Second.
Motion Melton, second Baldwin, that we approve and authorize the mayor to sign a revised agreement with City Administrator James Pruding. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. New business item number 1 passes. New business item number 2, consider adopting an ordinance approving and adopting an amended redevelopment project plan for redevelopment district in the city of Gardner, Kansas, Main Street Marketplace Redevelopment District Project Area 1. Because this was the subject of a public hearing, there will not be public comment on this. Matt Wolf. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. The city established a TIF district on October 15, 2018 after a public hearing. City approved a redevelopment project plan for Project Area 1 on February 18, 2019 for the Main Street Marketplace Project Area 1. On October 5th, 2020, the City Council approved an amended and restated development agreement with supermarket developers. As described in the development agreement, the City Council will consider amending the TIF project plan term from 10 years to 11 years. Adding 1 year to the TIF project plan term will increase the amount of TIF property tax revenues available to reimburse eligible costs to account for the cost of the future traffic signal improvements. This proposed ordinance approves the amended project plan for the redevelopment district, and passage of the ordinance requires 2/3 of the vote of the governing body pursuant to Kansas statute. It is staff's recommendation that you approve the ordinance.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Wolf. Any public comment on, can't say that because we just had the public hearing, so we don't have public comments. Sorry about that. Questions or for Matt or Tyler or on staff? Saying no, I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 2685.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Melton, second Winters, that we adopt ordinance number 2685, an ordinance approving and adopting an amendment redevelopment project plan for redevelopment district in the city of Gardner, Kansas, Main Street Marketplace Redevelopment District Project Area 1, and amending ordinance number 2602 of the city. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Winters,
Yes.
Councilmember Grigorczyk,
Yes.
Councilmember Melton,
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Ordinance number 2685 passes. New business item number 2. Consider adopting a resolution declaring that certain lands or interests be condemned or otherwise acquired for the US 56 Sycamore to Old 56 reconstruction project. This is the Main Street rebuilding. Tim McEldowney, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. So, yeah, the US 56 project is currently in final design stage. And during that process, we're also in the doing right-of-way and easement acquisition, and we're proceeding with that. So just to prepare in case there is a need for eminent domain, we're just asking for to adopt a resolution so we can begin that process if needed. I would just say that, based on where we're at with the project, I don't believe we're gonna need eminent domain. I think the negotiations are going well, but in case there is an issue and we're not able to negotiate, we don't want the project to slow down because of the time involved with eminent domain. So we just like to have the first step of this process started tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McEldowney. Is there any public comment on new business item number 3? Seeing none, any questions for Tim on this action?
I have a question, Mayor.
Yes, Todd.
So like similar motions, this is just starting the process, correct? It would still come back before the council for any final determination, is that correct?
Well, the next council meeting will have an ordinance that would have to be passed, but then yes, I mean, as we went through, if we had to go through the eminent domain, then we would have to come back for the payment of that.
Mm-hmm. And how many tracks are we talking about here?
At least like 20, 25, somewhere in that range we'll end up with, mostly easements.
Yeah, and most of it's to the west of the Quick Trip because that's where the third lane would be going, or the turn lane would be going.
Yeah, well, we need right-of-way east of the intersection right in front of Walgreens. And then a lot of the drives were improving and consolidating some of the entrances, so we need construction easements on a lot of those properties.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 207, or resolution number 2075.
So moved.
Second. Motion Melton, second Grigorczyk, that we adopt ordinance number, resolution number 2075. I'm getting these mixed up. A resolution declaring the necessity and authorizing a survey and descriptions of lands or interests therein necessary to be condemned for the location, laying out, construction, reconstruction, operation, use, maintenance, or repair of a roadway improvement project known as the US 56 Sycamore to Old 56 Reconstruction Project, located within the city of Gardner, Johnson County, Kansas. City Clerk.
Councilmember Winters,
Yes.
Councilmember Grigorczyk,
Yes.
Councilmember Melton,
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Resolution 2075 passes. New business on number 4, consider adopting an ordinance to condemn sanitary sewer easements for the Prairie Trace Sanitary Sewer Improvements Project. Gons Garcia, Utilities Director. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This is the second part of the eminent domain process. On November 16th, 2020, Council approved Resolution 2074, declaring necessary to acquire by condemnation real estate interest for city's construction, use and operation of a 6-inch force main for the Prairie Trace development to the East Lift Station. As of today, we have only received one easement agreement and one offer signed by the property owner. I know the city administrator have been talking with the Wolf family over the past 3 weeks, but as of today, they have not come out with a agreement. We makes it at this point necessary to go ahead and adopt the ordinance to proceed with the eminent domain.
Thank you, Gons. If you could hold for questions,
Sure.
side here. I'll open the floor for public comments on new business item number 4. If you wish to come forward, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. And comments are limited to 5 minutes.
David Wolf, 26020 West 183rd Street, Gardner, Kansas. Am I incorrect that, Jim, I thought we had, from some text with my brother, I thought we had came to a compromise. Is that correct, or?
I'm still exchanging emails with him now.
Okay,
I think we're close.
all right. Is there anything we can clear up, or?
I don't think so. I mean, you're aware of the issues with the newest offer with the fence and in lieu of the fence, a
Yeah.
cash offer, and so.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, and I thought from just now, I thought we had agreed on that, last.
I just emailed him back.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep.
It sounds like we're very,
Do that.
it sounds like we're very close, isn't it?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we're,
Okay, so this is, as I said, the ordinance is just a formality at this point. We can discontinue those proceedings at any time.
right.
Well, it sounds like we just won't start.
Correct.
Finish it before you.
No, I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, we're bound by a timeline. That's the only thing that's precipitating
Right,
this, so.
I've read.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Wolf.
So I just want to, for the record, so just because we would vote yes on this, let's say,
Yeah.
that doesn't stop the negotiations that are going on
That is
right now.
correct.
Okay.
They
I mean,
will
I
go
know that. I
on
just
all
want
the
to have it on
way
record.
To the end
so.
of the contractual time.
Okay, I just wanted to have that out there for
Yep.
everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is there
there's a
any
line,
other- I'm sorry, are
excuse
there
me.
any other public comments? Okay, please go
No,
on.
there's a paragraph here at the end of the CAS. Although this action item starts a condemnation process, city staff and consultants will continue to negotiate in good faith. Should the parties be unable to reach an agreement, the eminent domain action may be required.
Thank you.
One question I had for Jim, are we at the goal line or are we at the 50-yard line?
No, we're at the goal line.
Okay.
Great. All right, any other questions? There's other parcels on this, by the way, other than the Wolf parcels. So this basically is all-inclusive for all the parcels that are needed to complete the line. So, any questions about that? I have we started negotiations with other parties, Jim? Or have they had a willingness to come forward for negotiation?
No, we've reached out to him, but have not gotten a response, other than through an attorney.
Okay. All
And
right.
that was just a fact-finding call, so,
But we will still move forward in good faith on those as well.
yes.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 2686.
So moved. Second.
Motion Melton, second Winters, that we adopt ordinance number 2686, an ordinance approving the description survey of lands necessary for acquisition by condemnation of real property for the location, laying out, construction, reconstruction, operation, use, maintenance, and repair of sanitary sewer lines and improvements attendant thereto from Prairie Trace Development to the East Lift Station. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Jaworski,
Yes.
Councilmember Melton,
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Winters,
Yes.
Ordinance 2686 passes. Thank you, and please keep us
Thank you.
apprised of the results of the negotiation, City Administrator. Thank you. All right, we're moving on to council updates. Regular agenda is completed. Does staff have anything for council? I'm going to start with Chief Engineer McEldowney. All right, great. David Knopick, it's been awfully quiet in your side of the building.
It has been.
But
Well,
not really.
Not really, no. No, we're moving along with some things that are being discussed behind the scenes on a number of properties and developments. But as far as formal planning commission items and things, it has been fairly quiet. We will not have a planning commission meeting this month. We have no agenda items for that meeting, so.
Well, it's also a holiday month, so.
I'd make them come in, just a matter of.
I mean, it's tough to find people on the fourth Tuesday of the month when Christmas is the fourth Thursday.
Come on. They need to be
Besides that,
dedicated.
yeah. All right, well, thank you very much, Mr. Knopick. Jason Bruce, Parks and Rec, excellent job on the Christmas tree lighting. You made me look good.
Thank you.
It's very hard to do.
Yeah, I appreciate you and the boys being part of that. We definitely wanted to do something this year to keep the tradition going. And granted, it wasn't the same, with the kids singing carols and Santa and all that. I hope everyone enjoyed the video. I know we had technical difficulties, but all in all, the video turned out really good and your message was great. So thank you for being a part of that. And Charles with IT, Danica, a lot of people had a hand in that. So I appreciate all their help. I'm not sure if you saw that we had photos with Santa this past weekend. Weather cooperated. It was beautiful out. Parks guys spent a lot of time building sleigh, with all the decorations and everything. We had a really, really good turnout. So that was nice to see for something new in 2020. You guys will be seeing something this Friday in the Friday Minute Memo about our Holiday Lights Tour. I think Jamie's going to send some information out next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We'll ask you guys to maybe go out with your family and do some voting on people that sign up for the lighting contest. So more information about that will be coming out Friday Minute Memo. That's it.
Great. And winter sports. What's the situation right now with KS? I think we go by KSHA, SAA or whatever.
So what we're doing right now is we have our little ballers program. As of right now, that is still moving forward. That doesn't start till after the first of the year. So that's in conjunction with Johnson County Parks and Recreation District, because we house it at New Century Fieldhouse. So I think we're going to extend the deadline another week for that program, and then kind of move forward and see. I think Keisha has another meeting tomorrow, and so we're just still following protocols and things. Obviously, it's ever changing each week. So, but we still have some time before we actually start with games and practices, and that'll be after the first of the year.
I've been asked a couple of questions about that, so I want clarification. Thank you. Council Garcia, Utilities, what's up in your neck of the world?
Smart meters, 5,500 electric meters installed, and about 140 water meters. The water meters takes a little longer. Next week, we should start with the construction of the east interceptor for the Prairie Trace development.
Excellent.
So hopefully we'll see some movement there.
Nice. We'll get some pictures of that.
That's all, sir.
Absolutely. Chief Belcher, Good to see you, sir.
The only thing that we have is, we have a Citizens Police Advisory Committee meeting Monday, December 14th at 7 PM at the Justice Center.
Rich is happy to hear that.
As always, it'll be riveting.
Yes, yes. City clerk,
Nothing for me tonight.
finance director,
Nothing tonight.
nothing tonight. City attorney, sitting in, is that your kitchen?
No, it's my office.
Oh, it's your office, okay.
Some pretty color. It really highlights your eyes.
Yeah, I picked it. Can't you tell? No, my wife has much better decorating skills than I do, so I don't have anything to report this week.
Okay, all right, city administrator, anything on your side of the
Yeah,
fence?
so we had a major shift in how the CARES Act funding is gonna be allocated to cities. So everybody remembers we had an initial allocation that we could spend up to, and we had a deadline of December 30th to spend that. Early on, actually up until about 3 weeks ago, we were not going to be allowed to get reimbursed for law enforcement costs, salaries and any other incremental costs. That changed. So the way this is gonna work now is anything that we haven't done and submitted for by December 11th, which is gonna include the HVAC and the council chambers AV upgrades, they're going to give us the rest of our allocation up to the max, and deposit it into our account on the 18th. So we will be able to, we've got law enforcement costs, you know, well in excess of our allocation, which I believe is about $635,000. So we are going to get the money not only for the things we've already filed for, but we're gonna get any excess, which should be $150,000 to $200,000.
That's great, that's really good news. It'll help our budget, definitely, so, thank you for that update. Council, do you have anything for staff? I'm gonna start with Councilmember Gorsuch, because we never start with you.
Oh, I'm nobody special. Thank you, Mayor. First, I wanted to bring up for Jim, the new concrete sidewalk that is, I think it's pretty parallel to Orchland's on the east side of Gardner Road. It's the concrete piece.
Oh, the trail.
Yeah, the old trail, the walking trail there that runs parallel. It was brought to my attention that the incline may not be ADA compliant, so I just thought I'd put that out there. I did go and look at it, and it is, I'm not a professional, so I don't know, but there was a substantial, noticeable incline.
And the max is 2%, so.
It's higher than that. Okay. Yeah.
The next item I had was for Jason and team. The Santa pictures were awesome. I'm sure my daughter and many other children were super happy to see Santa. I know that Santa reported that one child pulled his beard to make sure he was real. And I was glad that the proof was in the pudding. Back to Jim. The Friday Minute Memo talked about the police station, the old police building being demoed. Could you just tell us what those dates are?
I don't have them in front of me, but we're going through the process of putting the bid package together. Then it'll be put out to bid. I believe the demolition date is the first week in February. Tim, is that right?
Yeah, but I don't remember the exact date either, but the plan should be done within a matter of weeks, and then it'll be advertised. And yeah, I want to say it's February or March when the advertisement is, or the bidding is scheduled to be open.
And we're gonna finish with a final grade and then put it on the market?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the plan.
Two more items, Mayor. When is the next Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting, Mr. Nopik?
We don't have one scheduled currently. It'll probably be after the first of the year. We began discussions inside with staff, starting to figure out where we're going next with that. So I would anticipate we'll try to get something scheduled in that January, early February period there.
Again, I just got some notes and thought I'd ask on their behalf. And last but not least, and Mayor, if I'm stealing your thunder, tell me and I'll stop. But the mayor's,
I said you first, so.
the mayor's Christmas fund.
Yes, so we dispersed, let me see, $5,600 to purchase 70 Price Chopper gift cards for 66 families.
Are you sure about these numbers, sir?
Yes, yes.
So it was $55 gift cards to 175 children for a total of $9,625.
Different group.
Okay. So I'll continue. I think Miss Margaret Dravetta started this many
Yes,
years
she did.
ago.
Yes, she did.
So in lieu of gifts, like they've done in the past, they asked for cash donations. They raised $10,000, helped 66 families or 175 kids. And then Joy's Closet also provided some vouchers.
Absolutely.
And then there was Price Chopper provided $80 gift cards.
The mayor's Christmas tree fund.
Is that the part?
That's
Okay.
the one, yeah.
So I'll just stop there and let you continue, but I just wanted to point this out because this community is incredible.
Yes, it is.
$10,000 to help 175 children during this period of time is just, I mean, my hat's off to the community and everybody that donated. And it's really an emotional thing, I think, for those that donated, and I just wanted to say thank you. Carry on, Mayor.
Yeah, so 66 families, 70 total gift cards, because we had several families that had larger family sizes. And yeah, it was $80 per family, plus the 4 that had more people, so that'd be $160 for those families.
Yeah, I personally donated to the fund, and 2 of the clubs I belong to donated. So it's a very worthwhile cause.
It was huge, and as you said, Randy, the community really stepped up, and that's part of being I talk about Gardner Strong and the hashtag and everything else, but that's the personification of it. So I understand there's several council members that did contribute.
We have a very giving community.
Yes,
so.
yes, absolutely. So thanks to all, and I believe that Restoration Church is also doing some things as well for food pantry. They're setting up a food pantry and some other things around the community. So I think I got some Fox 4 play on that one. So it's nice. All right, Tori.
Okay, I have something for Gons. How many smart meters do we have left to do in total? I know you gave me a number, but say again, will you?
Liquor meter. We have 9,000 electric meters, so we installed so far 55, so we're about 60% done.
Okay, my neighborhood got them a couple weeks ago. We did not get notified that they were coming. So I know we'd had some emails along the way or whatever, so I don't know if we can revisit this and make sure people are getting notified, especially with more people at home now, homeschooling and et cetera. I know the electricity isn't down for very long, but it is disruptive when they are home trying to do the schooling and stuff.
I'll go ahead and I'll talk with Next Gen.
I knew because my power is off. I was like, I wonder if I got my new smart meter, and I went outside and I did, and then I asked some of my neighbors, and I got a couple emails. So if we could just ramp that up, that would be nice.
Thank you.
All right, thank you,
Or I wonder, can you maybe just somehow put an announcement out about like neighborhoods? That
Yeah,
you
or
know,
just
we're gonna be in this neighborhood, and then we're gonna be in this neighborhood, not individual houses.
or something. I don't know. It just seems like people would like to have a little heads up.
I mean, I thought we did have a schedule on the website. The problem is, unless you are getting the email blasts or the
And
text blasts,
I do
then
get those,
you
but I
won't be
didn't get a
notified of
notice,
it.
so.
Yeah, so there's gotta be just better communication matrix on that, just overall. That's the biggest complaint I'm getting on the meters is that when they're being installed, no one's hearing about it. And it's causing some disruption because people are on Zoom meetings, people are on, they're doing homeschooling, especially the older kids, and it's causing some heartache.
Danica texted me and said that they do send out email blasts, but we'll have to do more than that to make sure people that don't check that or aren't signed up are made aware.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can I tag that? Then that issue is very similar to other things we've had where we put something on the website so that everybody's aware of it. But unless you're going to check the website or knew that it was being put up there, you don't know it's there.
Exactly.
And then you get one blast and you're 3 months down the road and there's no push notification. So we still need to revisit where updates keep getting pushed and people get them without having to go look themselves.
Yeah.
meeting people where they're at, okay, I get it.
I mean, it's kind of like, you know, some places you can track and see where the snowplow is on a map.
Yeah.
Right, same kind of thing. You don't go and check an email every 10 minutes to see if the snowplow's coming, right? It's getting pushed out, same kind of thing.
So we are working on a new app for the city that'll have icons for projects, for utilities, for all those things, and integrate that into our system. And Amy Nasta, Danica, and Charles have been working on that for the last couple months, so that should be up soon.
Is this replacing Textcaster?
Textcaster will be built into it.
Okay.
Danica's gonna kill me, but she really likes Textcaster. I've tried to
Yeah,
get her
she
away
does.
from it, but she does.
I think
but yeah,
we're
all those things,
underutilizing it.
we've worked on for several months, trying to integrate those things and make it more user-friendly, where somebody can just go to a single app and access that information. So
Yeah.
they've been working with the vendor to, on the back end, so that they make sure that all those things work. And the project page in particular, we're working on graphs so that people can see the progress we make and do all those things. And I've seen the first and second iterations of those, and the council will be happy with that.
Great.
So, Jim, to Mark and Tori's point, or Tori and Mark's point, where do we collect the emails? At what point? Through our utility department?
I don't know that answer. I can get it and find out where we're getting that information.
But let's just say it is the utility department. Then to Mark and Tori's point, you know, if we've collected Randy's email address that lives at 620 East Hawthorne and it is coming into his area or neighborhood, there's some sort of ping.
Right.
The address would ping the email, or trigger, I should say, so.
Okay.
Fair enough.
It's a voluntary sign up right now. You can go onto our website and sign up, and you can select different topics of interest that you have.
Yeah, I signed up for it, but I didn't know if there was a collection point, like through a utility or something that was, you know, netting those contacts versus voluntary.
You're talking about cultivating.
Yes.
Cultivating the emails
And
and
we
placing them
looked
in a
at
central repository
Mhm.
somewhere.
We looked at a number of ways of integrating our GIS capabilities into things like that, so we'll keep exploring those
Yeah,
opportunities.
just food for thought.
Okay. Mark, anything else?
No, that's it for me.
Okay. Council Vice President?
I don't have anything. I know, everybody else has got stuff. I
Two
mean,
in
the
a
world
row.
is truly gone.
All right, Council
Turned
President.
upside down.
Just a quick, happy to see the contract with Jim, and happy to have some stability and work with them for the next 6-ish years, so.
4 to 6.
4 to 6, we'll see.
Yeah, yeah.
The voters will see.
But I do think he's been good for the city, and I look forward to working with him.
Thank you.
Great. All right, well, I'll just kind of follow up on what the council president said. I'm glad to lock Jim in for a long-term extension, and good to see the stability and the continuity. I'm sure that the people who deal with us also like to see that, provide some certainty. So again, I think he's earned it, and I applaud his work over the last year and a half of being in that position. So with that being said, I will entertain a motion to, oh wait, we can't do that. We have an executive session. Yes. I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Baldwin, second Melvin, that we recess into executive session pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2 to discuss matters of attorney-client privilege regarding the Big Bull Creek wastewater treatment contract. Beginning at, and we'll start at 8:35 p.m. How much do we need? How much time do we need? 20 minutes? All right, 8:55. Okay, so 8:35 p.m. return to regular session at 8:55 p.m. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, any abstentions? We are in recess. entertain a motion to resume regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Melton, second, Baldwin, that we resume regular session. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any, oh, all right. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are back in regular session. I'll entertain a motion to recess into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Baldwin, Melton, second Baldwin, sorry about
I
that.
feel bad for you, man.
That we recess into executive session pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2 to discuss matters of attorney-client privilege regarding Big Bull Creek wastewater treatment plant contract beginning at 8:56 p.m., returning regular session at 9:06 p.m. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, any abstentions? We are back in executive session.
It's this whole compliance thing.
All right.
Oh, man.
And coma thing.
Coma.
Yeah.
Coma.
That's coma.
Is it?
I'll entertain a motion to resume regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Melton, second Winters, that we resume regular session. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, any abstentions? We are back in regular session. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Melton, second Winters, that we adjourn. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, any abstentions? We are adjourned.